So before we begin, we'll do our land acknowledgement. So we acknowledge the lands we share with the original people, including the many First Nations, Métis, the Inuit, and all other ancestors who made this land their home. As we gather within these territories, we're grateful for all that sustains us and provides for us at this time. We're thankful for new beginnings, new life, and opportunities. In the essence of reconciliation, we acknowledge these territorial lands of Treaties 6, 7, and 8. So as I said, we have Sherry Schaefer joining us today. I'm very excited to have her. Sherry is the Director of Emerging Leaders with Chavender Coaching and Consulting. With 35 years of leadership experience, Sherry has dedicated her expertise to mentorship programs and leadership development. By emphasizing team building, communication, and business relationship skills, she has powered many emerging leaders to enhance their roles within their organizations and with clients and contractors. Earning her master's degree in health administration has allowed Sherry to focus on leadership, middle manager development, and change management. These dynamic skills have contributed to the success of fundraising campaigns exceeding 25 million and have transformed organizational processes and culture for staff and clients across more than a dozen major projects. Additionally, Sherry is a recognized speaker, presenter, and host for secondary educational institutions, significant fundraising events, virtual sessions, and national conferences. Her talent for weaving powerful stories into her presentations enables audiences to connect deeply with the cause and subject matter, inspiring them to action. Ultimately, Sherry defines success as witnessing managers and leaders develop their skills to gain confidence and competence in their current roles and future aspirations. Recognizing that everyone faces moments of doubt regarding their management abilities, she is committed to helping individuals cultivate their talents to reach optimal levels of excellence for both their personal career journeys and their organization's achievements. Welcome, Sherry. I'll stop sharing my screen so that you can share your slides.
All right. Well, thanks so much. And honestly, sometimes those intros, I worry that they're really written for my mother, not for anyone else, but I appreciate that. I appreciate all the verbiage there to explain my background. Thank you for doing that. We're just going to one thing here. Sorry, I'll get my screen going and we will be set here. While we admit a few more people, I'm excited to see all the different titles and different places that people are with. It's a great, it gives a great sense of the variety in our province of different organizations that all work together. So, all right, okay, so you should be able to see this now.
Yep.
And so leadership and safety. And so we, when we were speaking about this session, we really talked about what's the right message here? What is important about leadership? And we were talking about safety leadership or a variety of different terminologies, but really what we came down to was it's about being a leader in the safety roles that we have as committee members and as leaders at our organizations. So we're pretty, I think this will be a really great presentation. I hope you guys like it. So a little bit about me. Thank you for sharing what you did. 35 years in healthcare, and so really my first decade I spent in the front line. I worked as a recreation therapist, and I was in a variety of different centers at one of the Edmonton organizations, and I really got a sense of being frontline with residents and with the team that I worked with. And at that time, I also got an opportunity to be on the safety committee. So, and we'll talk a little bit more about that and my experiences with that. Then I worked in as a manager, so middle management as manager and on the center operations committee. And later I moved into the executive. And in that role, I worked on the executive. I was really moved into what I call my second career, from doing more clinical practitioner work to the fund development work, where I really spent a lot of my energy as the director of the foundation, bringing dollars in to support the work at the centers. And the reason I really want to highlight this piece was because safety was a big component of the work we did as in the fund development work we did, because we would really impress upon our donors the importance of different kinds of equipment, or the way that a room was set up, and the things that we could bring in for enhancements into a building that were over and above where government funding ended. And a great example of that is, for example, overhead lifts. So at the time when we were doing our fundraising for the then new Kipnis Center for Veterans in Edmonton, which was 20 years ago, so that'll give you a scope of my age and how long I've been in the practice. But we were able to impress upon donors and grantors the importance of overhead lifts, not only for the safety of our residents and the independence for them, but very importantly for the safety of the staff as well. And so safety has been a big component of the work I've done over my years for a long time. So I'm always happy to share that aspect into that. And so as I moved into my third career, which I'm in now, which is really about the coaching and developing leaders in organizations, I really have spent a lot of time about team development, team building. And one of the things I like to really highlight is that leadership is in every job. You can be a leader in no matter what your role is. So whether you're in housekeeping, or you're in education, or you're on the unit, or you are a manager, the leadership piece is a component of all our jobs. And that piece is really important for us to keep in mind, because we really can utilize our time on the safety committees and the work we do for safety in our centers as building our leadership skills as well, right? And so if you look at this, a leader without title, who can be in any role, so whether you're in maintenance, or you're in housekeeping or food services, or you're admin, or you are a manager, in any role, it's someone who really can build the trust with others, and they create a safe and enjoyable environment. So really, by building a community, and being a leader in that community, we really can help be seen as the leader in the work that we do. So hopefully that helps you recognize the importance of the roles we play, no matter what our title is. So I wanted to ask the question: how many of you are? Let's start with how many of you are from a non-clinical role? So I saw that we have like education. I saw that there's someone from housekeeping. What are some of the other roles that we're seeing? And maybe I can ask the others to just kind of help me out with this, and let me know what some of those titles are. What are you guys seeing in the chat? If you can throw your titles in the chat, that'd be really good.
Hi, Sherry. I can go first. I'm Maureen from Bayshore Home Care Solutions. So nice to meet you. And I love that you mentioned about leadership, and that everyone is a leader in their role, regardless of the title. I strongly believe in that too, and foster that in my team. So I'm actually from HR. So I'm the HR manager here with Bayshore.
Yeah. HR, right? Oh, great! And what a great important piece to safety as well, right? So
Absolutely.
So much work that you do has to do in HR has to do with safety as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Thanks for saying that, Maureen. Yeah. Anyone else?
I don't know if you can hear me or not. Can you? Okay.
Yeah.
I'm having technical difficulties here. Well, I might be unique to many of the people on the call, but I spent 40 years in the oil and gas industry, in the engineering and construction throughout North America, retired, and came back in the healthcare industry. So it was, I would say, a cultural shock to me in regards to, just the culture in this industry. And one of the more dangerous industries I've ever worked in regards to people being injured. So I was just surprised by that. And my role here is the corporate OHS manager at Shepherd's Care Foundation. Okay.
Yeah. Corporate OHS. Yeah, that's great. And what a big transition from oil and gas into healthcare. And I love your recognition of the safety issues that we have in healthcare. So thank you for saying that. Excuse me. Okay. Well, the thing that I wanted to say is that I know in the committees that I worked in, that there are a variety of roles. So chairs, and then there's neighborhood or unit representatives, the management representative. What are some of the other representatives that you have on your committees? Do you do, excuse me, do you do the union representatives as well? Anyone have that? Okay. And what about family or resident representatives? Do you have those on there too?
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Okay.
we have many. You know, we have both. I mean, we have joint health and safety committees throughout our organization at all our facilities, and they're equal membership between unionized labor and staff. We also have family council meetings that we meet with family members, and I do sit at them meetings also, because the safety of our employees is only as important so we can provide the safety to their family members and residents, right? So if our employees are hurt, we really can't do the job that we want to do.
Yeah, no, that's exactly right. So, okay, great. I'm glad to hear that too, that you're including families and the residents. You know, the thing is that on the committee, the leadership component sits with every single member of the committee, and that's what I want to really talk about, because the chair has a leaderly role for sure, because they're leading the group for sure, and setting up all the conversations and really giving people voice at the table. But the other piece is, as representatives, you're taking the information back and you're becoming a leader in those areas that you represent. So where whether you're a unit representative or you're a representative to a certain group, you're taking back the information to them and really trying to impress upon them the importance of the work that the safety committee and the information that they're putting out there. So every person on this committee needs to have a leaderly component to the role that they're playing on the committee. And that's a really important piece. I want to share that because it really leads into the conversations about why would we want to be on the committee. And so I always share the story that, and I shared this with Leanne Morgan, who's with CCSA, that when in my day, when I was on the safety committee as a frontline worker, I got voluntold. So I don't know how many of you got voluntold to be on the committee, or it's just part of the role. But a lot of we found that a lot of members would get voluntold to be on it. Some people volunteered, but it really was either part of the role or they were asked to be on it and take a turn at being on the committee for a term. And so I think sometimes people don't, it's not seen as the cool kids committee. And so people don't always love to be on this committee, but it really has a huge important role in shaping the community of the center and the safety part of that community. So really you're creating culture for that community. You're creating a positive change. And I really believe in this being a change management kind of role, because where you see areas that need work, or you see that there's a gap in some of the safety measures that are happening at the centers, you have that opportunity to make a change. And that is really seen as a role of a leader, to make change and have impact. Opportunity to influence and lead. So for some people who are maybe not in management or not in a leaderly role, titled role, they still have influence and can still make that influence known in those committees, your center op committees or other committees, saying, we need to work towards having a safe environment. So for example, I know one of the things we worked on a center was for our night staff to be safe when they went back to their cars, or when they came in the evening at nighttime for their beginning of the shift. How do we create a positive community and influence change? So we had different measures that we would put into place. So for example, like the lights needed to be improved, or maybe they needed to, buddy up. There were a lot of different things that we tried. But we had influence on change that supported the community of that center. And then we were also supporting our peers, And the other piece that I really think is a benefit of safety committees, because of the leaderly role that each person on the committee plays, is developing and demonstrating leadership skills for future opportunities. So this is really a place where people can practice their leadership skills. They also are being observed by others, and people recognize them as leaders. They may then have opportunity for project leads or for being in interim positions, or are considered when they put their name in the hat for a role that's open and available. I want to just start with asking the next question. My thing is, how do you, when you go and work with the units that you're working with, or the areas when you're bringing the message out to people, how are some of the strategies that you're using? Are they all verbal, where you go out and talk to the groups, or are they set up so that you're putting print out there, like posters, or you're putting it out on email? What are the strategies that you're using to communicate the changes, or the program components that you're trying to do with the safety? You can just shout them out.
I see resources and site visits, staff meeting resources and visits in the chat.
Yeah.
Toolbox meetings, daily huddles, and visual posters when required.
Okay.
Monthly safety meeting materials are supplied to House leaders, includes discussion papers, posters, website links.
Okay. So what I want to chat about is the positive language that we have. So we have an opportunity to, when we're sharing our information about the work we're doing, and as leaders, we really can impact how people respond and how they take in the information that we're giving them. And I'll just give you some easy examples that are really simplified, but let's just talk about positive language. So what's the difference to you if you say, I'm saying thank you for something, I said, it's no problem. So what happens when you say no problem is we actually start to think, subconsciously, and this is all done through neuroscience, that we subconsciously think there was a problem. So we're thinking, what was the problem? So instead of saying no problem, we need to switch gears to say, it's all good. Happy to do it. All good. So then everyone has that positive sense. So when we're talking about the safety things that we're bringing forward to people, we want to do it with positive language and have impact. And so by being very careful about how we word things, we really can change the way we do it and the way that it's received. So words like but can actually almost 95% of the time be changed to and when we're using language and when we're changing these. So when people say, I don't know that I can, rearrange this room so that not everything is right to the roof, right? When you're talking to them, you're like, you have to switch gears so that you're using positive language so that it encourages them to make the change and and really put what you're saying into practice. So that positive language is a really big thing. And so we can think about words like changing the word but, changing no problem. Also, when we're emailing, some of the language that we use in emails, we often are using some negative connotations to things. What are some words that you guys can think of right off the top that may have some negative impact for people? Right away, easy things that people say. Can I have some thoughts about that? Fine. Yes, that's a great one, Amanda. Thank you for throwing that in there. Fine. No. Yes. No. Okay, sure. Yeah, great ones. So when you switch gears from, those ones, thank you for saying that, Charmaine. What we're doing is we're really changing the word to like, okay, fine, that's a great idea. or okay, fine. When people say, I'm going to do this, I'm not listening to you. You can say, okay, fine. Well, the idea of that, really, we have to switch it to say something like, we really can make this change together, right? So you're really moving towards a together philosophy, right? So that's how we word it really has an impact on things. Now, communication styles is the other one that I want to talk about. And so I don't know how many people colors, because I'm older, so I'm familiar with colors model, right? With orange, blue, green, and which one am I missing? Orange, blue, green, and gold. And though, what happens when you have colors? Sometimes what happens in a negative way, and I'll point this out, is that we really start to put people. We say, oh, that person's orange. You'll never get them to think through or read through a research document, right? That's not the idea of this. But the idea is, how do we work with people so that we recognize how we can work together differently, because we work differently. So sometimes it's about our personalities and how we receive information and how we need to process it. And understanding what other communication styles are really has an impact on that. So even in the committee itself, there will be people with different types of communication styles. And so knowing that there may be people around the table that need to be able to read the research behind it and process what we're asking for the change is really important. For others, it may be that they need to just tell me what the steps are and let's move along, right? I just need to know what you need me to do, right? And so understanding that and then be able to provide the information in a variety of ways helps everybody receive things. So you may need to, for example, if you're putting something out on a new strategy for safety, you need to put it out in a way that all people can take in information. So there's a little bit of research, there's a little bit of a story about why this is important and how it can impact them as an individual or as a group. You need to also tell them what the steps are. This is for the gold people. And you need to tell them what you're asking them to make a change in. So that's our orange people. When you think about all those pieces, then there's something for everyone, and the information will be received better by all people. And this works not just in safety. I use this with fund development when I was approaching donors all the time. And I used it with my when I was care managing and I was working with my care team. So understanding the communication styles is really important, and it's a great place to really dive into. And so if anyone's really wanting to dive into this area, I'm happy to do that with them. The other thing is about body language. And when we're working with people and you get that sense that people are not as open to the ideas that we're presenting, their body language will tell you that, right? They may lean back, they have their arms crossed, right? They're not giving you eye contact, although that can be a cultural thing. There's a variety of different ways that people can their body language tells us, is this important to them? Are they going to take the information in? And as a leader, we have an opportunity to align with each person. So some of the strategies you can use with body language is actually, my favorite one is mirroring. And I don't know how many people are familiar with mirroring, but mirroring is a great strategy where however they are standing, you very casually, not obviously, but very casually, you start to stand like they are. So if, for example, they're standing with one leg crossed, you might cross your leg as well. They're leaning against the wall a little bit or against the handrail, you might lean against the handrail too. If they're leaning in towards you, you might lean in too. So those are strategies where they said, and subconsciously, they start to align with you. The other thing too is when people have, we talk about when people have some concerns, sometimes their voices get raised, right? And when you lower your voice and speak just a little bit slower, not in a mocking way, but a little bit slower, they start to slow down as well. And so then you can get some time, some space and some time to then come to more of a middle ground where you can share and have good communication. And I know sometimes in safety, and this is something Leanne and I talked about, was sometimes in safety when you're presenting new ideas to individuals or small groups, or you're asking them to make a change because it complies with the work that you do in safety, that these are ways that you can help them come to the same place that you're in, right? The same place that what you're trying to present. And it's really important we as leaders see these as opportunities to support them in coming to the same place, so that people are open to these ideas and wanting to make those changes. Jeanette, do you want me to come back to, did you have a question? I see in the chat that it says I have a question, but I want to know if that was one of the negatives, a negative word and language, or you actually did have a question.
No, it was one of the negatives.
Okay. Yeah, and it's a good one, right? When people are starting, they throw a question in there. I have a question, and they have a little bit of a connotation. There's a little bit of a tone, right? And so this is a really good one. And I recognize that, Jeanette, but I just wanted to make sure I wasn't missing something. Okay, so we'll go to the next slide if we can. Dana's doing a great job helping me out here. Thank you for that. So influencing safety culture. So this piece is also a component by integrating our safety language into the everyday conversation. So as people in the safety committee and people who are really proactive about safety, we can bring it into the conversation on a regular time. So I was thinking back to my experiences and things like, oh, we're decorating for Christmas. Let me go get the ladder so that we make sure that we're all safe. So you're integrating it into the conversation and the plan. Or when maybe you're talking about the work that you have to do, you have a project coming up or a task that you're doing, and you say, okay, we're going to get this done today, but first, before we do anything, let's just talk about what are some of the safety measures we need to make sure we're going to be doing some heavy lifting. So remember, everyone, the lifting practices, we're going to be doing some some stuff up high. So what are some of the tools that we need to have, some of the equipment, and bringing that into the conversation all the time by making an everyday conversation every day, then that influences the culture of safety, right? The other thing is that negotiating and strategizing for best practice. So people might say, like Jeanette pointed out, I have a question. And maybe they're being oppositional about that when they bring that forward. But you have now the opportunity to negotiate and strategize for, okay, so you have it. That's a good question. What's the idea that you have? Let's talk about how we move that forward together and we still are able to follow best practice. So you can negotiate and strategize. And I often talk about apple pies when I talk about strategizing and negotiating. And what I say is, because we're all from Alberta, so we have Safeways the Easterners don't do Safeway. But let's say you have a Safeway pie, a lovely apple pie, and you could turn it into a Costco pie. It's deep dish. So everybody's getting their piece of the pie, right? Everybody comes to the table, they want their piece of the pie. But that's the way negotiating works. People come to the table, they all want to get their word in, they want to get their idea across, right? But you move it from being a regular pie piece to a deep dish pie. So still everyone's getting their percentage of the pie, same percentage, they're 25%, but they've now got a deep dish pie. So they're getting more for that 25%, right? So that's the negotiating goal that we're trying to get to. And when we think together, okay, so we all want to get something out of this conversation, but how do we work together to make sure that we're all getting that, plus we're making it better for our peers, or plus we're making it better for our residents or our visitors? What are some ideas that we can come up with? And that's part of the negotiating, strategizing, and really finding the deep dish pie. Does that make sense? For people? Yeah, okay. A few head nods. Thank you for that. Okay, so finding common ground and focus. So when you're influencing, you really want to find out, okay, when you come forward to me and you say that you don't have the right equipment to do the work on the unit, what are some things that you're thinking of? Okay, and then here's some things I know I can offer. Let's find the common ground here. What can we do together to find that? So finding a common ground, also understanding where people are coming from. Why is this important for you? Like, tell me why you brought this forward. I want to know how you came up with this because it's a really interesting topic. And so, and I want to make sure I really pay attention and put some energy into what you're talking about. So by finding the common ground, you can help to get to where you want that change to happen, right? And I really think that in leadership, our goal is to be a change agent. And, you know, when I talked about the overhead lifts, I also often will tell the story about crank beds. In long-term care, we were the last to get electric beds. I don't know how many people have been around as long as I have and remember the days when we had tons of crank beds. And it was because we moved forward in the fund development world, which I wasn't in at the time, but I supported it. We really pushed to have electric beds, and we had to fundraise for those. But what happened was when we kept pushing the that we would get to where we had maybe 50% were fundraised electric beds versus crank beds, which were so hard on people's shoulders and backs to, you know, do the cranking. It became part of what the expectations were from the families and the residents. And so we actually caused a change in what was a standard. And so then the electric bed became standard. And pretty soon we didn't have to fundraise for it anymore because it was government funded and it was part of our model of care, right? And so we have an opportunity to be a change agent in this role as well. And I really think that that's something to keep in mind. How can we make a big change by doing incremental things over time, by buying 1 or 2 beds, by talking about always bringing up the safety for people at nighttime or when there's less people on the unit because it's they're working by themselves, right? So by doing having those kinds of conversations, we continue to be change agents in making sure that we create that culture, that safety culture in our centers. Okay. Oh, sorry. Next one. I'm trying to push the button, Dana. Anyone have any questions? I'm going to pause here. Anyone have any questions about what we've talked about so far? You can throw it in the chat or jump in. Just take your mute off if you want. I'm going to make sure I give everyone an opportunity. Okay, so you're excited to hear me talk some more? Okay, so the other piece I'm really big on is giving people opportunity to show their leadership skills. And Maureen, you brought that. I think it was Maureen who brought that up before about that the importance of leadership no matter what your role is, right? And so mentoring new members, always by recognizing other people's interest in safety, you can start to mentor them before they come on the committee, and then bringing them on and supporting them in the role, right? Like how do they bring things forward to the huddles or to the team conversations, and giving them some support about that, mentoring them with somebody who's been on the committee for a while, and doing that, pairing them up so they can have that support, right? And empowering others to join too. How do we set people up so they can join? When we recognize that somebody may have some leadership skills, this is a great opportunity for them to try it on, right? And then training and professional development, obviously giving them some support that way. But thinking about the succession of the committee. So when you look at the committee, the whole composition of the committee, you have people on there from a variety of different areas in the center. We talked about the reps. We have maintenance, some union, some not union, some from different areas, some different different units in the building. So really looking at what's the composition of the committee and where are the gaps? What are some areas that who in that area has some potential that we're just starting to see? And then how can we support them to have the time to be on the committee and not feel like it's an extra or there's going to be something on the side of their desk, right? One more thing. And so it's really important when we're looking at succession that we really think through all of those components to support someone in being on the committee as a committee member, right? And then also providing a timeline. So we know we have terms, those are set up in your terms of reference, but sometimes we set them up so that people can have several years on the committee if they really are excelling, or they can be in different roles on the committee, and giving people the opportunity to move into like the chair role or the vice chair role, or I don't know if some of you have where they're doing the minutes or whatever, right? So just looking at people's skills and the potential that they have, not just that, they're in that role, so they need to be on the committee, right? Because they have that title. It's about what they demonstrate as a leader in whatever role they're in by being leaderly, right? So versus being a title. So, okay. Next slide. I think we're getting close to the end. Yes. So questions and answers. So we talked a lot about leadership. One of the things that I do, I'm just giving you some opportunity to think about any questions that you have. One of the things I do is I spend some time coaching people. I do professional mentoring, where I will come in and support people in their leadership role, whatever that is specifically. But we go into great detail on soft skills, which are some of the things we talked about: communication, negotiation, solution strategizing. So those things we really we have opportunity to help people to really grow in their skills, and oftentimes that gives them the opportunity then to grow in their roles as well, and move where they really can shine in a role that suits them best. So we talked a lot about the idea of leadership on the committee and amongst the committee members. Is there questions that you guys have? Okay, so Shelby said, in your experience, what is the best way to communicate with employees across multiple sites in a large corporation? Oh, that's such a great one. I mean, right now we've obviously moved. In my time, we always had to come together in person, driving from one center to another. And I know for some of your organizations, you're across the province, so that's not an easy task either. So one of the pluses that we've experienced in the last 5 years is being able to be much more virtual like we are today. So bringing people together. But when we do that, we have to recognize that people come with, again, going back to the different personalities and how we work together with those various personalities. Because sometimes we will have people that are similar and a little bit clashing, right? And so working together and finding the ways to be a team. And sometimes when we're presenting things, I often talk about, if you have people that are probably going to not like an idea that you're putting forward, that you ask them first. Go to them before the committee, before you present it, to get what their ideas would be that would be challenging for the idea you have. That way they have voice ahead of time, and it's just you and them. And you can work together on how could we overcome those challenges. And then when it's presented to the group, you're presenting both the idea and how to overcome any challenges. We've already thought about some of the challenges that Sarah came up with, and so here's what we've already thought about. What are some other challenges we can talk about? But usually that helps to move the group into agreement about what is the best next strategy, what's the best next step to take. And so sometimes when we're working across multiple sites, we see that a little bit of you're trying to build some synergy, and it takes a little bit of time. I also really encourage people, when you're working with groups that you don't see day to day, to talk about things besides what's on the topic, like besides the agenda. Ask people, as a leader, ask them about their personal, how's everyone's vacation this summer? Tell me, what was your favorite place that you went? Because by bringing people down, this brings people to that common ground we talked about before. What is the common ground? And it may be that everyone went on vacation, or that everyone didn't go on vacation because of COVID, or that, everyone around the table has kids and their vacations were all kid-friendly vacations. By having those conversations and personalizing it, bringing in the person-centered focus really will help to build that a relational experience at that committee, and you'll start to work closer together. So hopefully that helps, Shelby. Any other questions?
Any other questions for Sherry? We did get one question on whether you'd be willing to share your slides, Sherry, and if we can share a copy of the slides, we'll definitely take care of that for you. But
yeah, you bet. Totally happy to.
Any other questions?
Yeah, we built it. We built this just for you guys. So
perfect.
And if you're looking for more, you want to chat some more, just I think my contact is on the last slide here. So you're welcome to reach out to me at any time, and we can have a little conversation. And I'm happy to help. I've worked in continuing care industry for decades, and so I really still support it. I'm a member of the AAG so that I can continue to be connected to this this area. Excuse me. So happy to help. Okay.
While you're thinking of questions for Sherry, I'm just gonna pass it over to Kevin from my team, who's gonna share a little bit of information about our safety leadership program. So Kevin, I'll hand it off to you.
Okay, thanks, Dana, and good afternoon, everybody. And thank you, Sherry, for a wonderful presentation. I took 2.5 pages of notes, and being involved in health and safety for 3 decades and managing and working with health and safety committees, I'm always amazed at the amount that I still have yet to learn. So thank you very much. And that's a big part of safety leadership. And I like some of the sayings. I love that titleless leader. And that's one of the things that we stress in the safety leadership program. In fact, effective and accountable leadership is an essential component of an organization's health and safety program. And honestly, to make safety a reality, every leader has to have the desire to make the workplace safe for all that come in. So, and it's no secret, leaders have greater responsibility for the safety than anyone else in the organization. However, Sherry hit upon it in quite a bit in what she said, in the fact that whatever your safety role is, you can be a leader within that role. And so how leaders demonstrate the importance of safety can significantly impact outcomes. And each of these 3 modules that you see, introduction to health and safety leadership, leading individual safety performance, and effective leadership, team leadership, each one can be taken on its own as a standalone module. It's the way we designed it. However, to get the best out of it is taking all 3. Each of these modules in the health and safety leadership program are designed to give you the information and skills to establish and support an effective occupational health and safety system. They explore the development of a safety culture from 3 different perspectives, programs, individuals, and teams, and they embed safety throughout all levels of the organization. I can't stress it enough. A safety culture is essential to the success of any health and safety program or management system. They're 2 different things, but without having an active culture and a robust safety culture, you're really not going to have a good safety program. You can have words on paper and papers in a book and lots of books on a shelf, but that doesn't make a safety program. It's how people embrace health and safety is what makes a health and safety program and a culture. And so with the safety leadership course, that's what we work around. A couple of us do teach it. One of my colleagues, Christy Lee, who wasn't able to join us today, and myself, we teach the program, and we've had some very good feedback from it. And I encourage each and every one of you that's in the panel today and in the forum today, if you have questions, please reach out to us. And I'll just put another email address in the chat. And I'm pretty sure that anybody who has taken a course with us will have seen that at the end of our courses. But I encourage you, if you have questions about it, reach out to us at any time, because you don't have to have a title. You don't have to have supervisor, director, safety director, OHS lead, or anything else in your name, in your title, to be a safety leader. You just have to want to lead. Yeah. And I guess I'll ask if there's any questions about my little short spiel.
All right. Thanks, Kevin. Thanks, Sherry. I'm not seeing any other questions in today's chat, so I just want to wrap up today by thanking you once again for sharing your wealth of information on leadership and safety. And again, we will share the slides with everyone who registered to attend today. As usual, we will also post a recording of today's presentation on our YouTube channel. And before we leave, just a couple of final thoughts. As I said, we've had a series of occupational health and safety forums in 2024 that were presented in collaboration with ASCHA, the Alberta Seniors and Community Housing Association, as well as ACCA, the Alberta Continuing Care Association. And our final OHS Health and Safety Forum for 2024 will be on November 19th. It is on emergency response plans. At that session, we will have a local fire chief who will be attending as a special guest and sharing their knowledge on what's important from a health and safety response plan perspective. And also, we will begin planning next year's forums in October. So please be sure to complete the survey at the end of today's forum, because your input helps us determine the topics that you would like to see presented in future forums. As well, if you have any presenters that you've heard speak before on the topics that you have, feel free to share that information as well. We're always looking for individuals that we can connect with, like Sherry, who have such rich history and information and expertise to share with everyone who attends. So I'm not seeing any questions. That brings us to the end of today's session. We do have our contact information for CCSA specifically on this page. And Sherry's contact information will be included on the slides that we will be sharing with you immediately following today's presentation. So thank you once again. Appreciate you joining us today and look forward to our next OHS discussion forum on November 19th. And thanks once again, Sherry.
Thanks, everyone. It was a pleasure.